I'm Lloyd Holliday, and this is the Cost of a Thing podcast. Thanks for listening in today. The cost of a thing is the amount of time that you must spend working to buy the things that you want and need. And that directly determines your standard of living. And the American standard of living is what this podcast is all about. And I'm going to be discussing anything that affects that standard of living, especially those things that affect it negatively. And especially those things that have lowered our standard of living from the one that we had in America here in the 1960s, which was better than the one today. And why am I doing this, talking about our standard of living? Because I've been there when it was better than it is now. I've seen how it was in the 1960s and 70s, and it was better in general for more people. And I don't see the government talking about this, trying to improve the standard of living. I don't see the media talking about this. It's either ignored or it's forgotten, and it may be purposely ignored. So that's why I want to bring these things out. I want to bring attention to the fact that our standard of living has gone down and is going down, and that's what I'm going to talk about right here on the Cost of a Thing podcasts. Okay, today I'm going to talk about the great gas price ripoff of October 2019, especially here in California, maybe some of the other western states too. The price is very high, I think close to $4 in my area, and some areas of California may be as high as $5 a gallon. That, all the while, in most areas of the country, gas is about $2.50 a gallon. And I verified that in a few places on one of these cheap gas internet sites. You can just type in the city where you want to see where the gas price is at, and there it is. It'll come right up and tell you what the lowest and average gas prices are in those areas. Pretty nice. And you know, this really hit home. I didn't just look on the internet. I was out traveling in my RV this summer, and we went as far as Nebraska. This was in June, July, and August, and so not too long ago. Prices in California then were probably about $3.60, $3.70 a gallon, maybe even $3.50 in some of the areas here in the valley areas. Well, in Nebraska, the lowest price I saw while I was out there was $2.29 a gallon. Most places it was about $2.40, $2.50 a gallon. You can see the picture there that I took at a gas station in central Nebraska just to prove it. There it is. I think it's $2.45 a gallon there in the photo that I took, and that was in late June. And I checked that station, still around the same price as it was then, today. So as you can see, the price differential between Nebraska and California is about $1.50 a gallon, especially right now. So I wanted to figure out exactly how much money is being ripped off in California every day. So I took the number of, I looked up on the internet how many gallons a day is used in the United States of gasoline on a typical day. And it turns out it's about 384 million gallons of gasoline is used in the whole United States on a typical day. Well, since California contains about 12% of the population of the country, about 40 million people, well, that means in California we're using about 12% of that 384 million gallons. So that's about 46 million gallons a day is used in California every day. Now, if you multiply the $1.50 a gallon that we're paying more than other states here in California, approximately, that 46 million gallons times $1.50, that equals about $70 million a day that we're paying too much for gas. So somebody's getting that $70 million a day. And if the rip-off artists, whoever they are, and I'll talk about that in a minute, can keep that up for a month, that's $2.1 billion they're going to get for really doing nothing more than the gasoline providers out in Nebraska and the other states in the country. So somebody's getting $2 billion a month for doing little to nothing more than they're doing in Nebraska to bring that gas out here. So that's quite a ripoff. $70 million a day for doing nothing more than they're doing out in Nebraska, bringing gas to the gas station so we can drive our cars around. Now, that's quite a ripoff. I mean, that's a classic definition of the ripoff, when somebody's doing very little or even nothing, and they're getting lots of money rolling in and day out, as long as they can keep up this of a charade or a scam or whatever whatever you want to call it that they're doing. Well, let's talk about now. I'm going to talk about who is getting all this money, this extra $70 million a day that's rolling right into their pockets. And, well, this time it's not the Arabs, the Arab countries, or the oil-producing countries. Oil prices are pretty reasonable right now in the $50 range. And that's why gas is reasonably priced in most areas of the United States today. Today what's happening is the refiners in California are having problems with their refineries. Either there's been a breakdown or an explosion, or they are down for, quote, maintenance, whatever it is. They're the ones creating the bottleneck. They're the ones creating the shortage that's making the price rise. They're saying it's a supply and demand issue. Well, they're restraining the supply, so now that it's the same demand, but the supply is restrained. So there you go, they say the prices have to rise. And as I understand it, in California, they have their own formulation here. So they can't just bring in gas from other countries or from other states. They have to have this formulation, some kind of a clean air type situation. So out here, the refiners, they have you over a barrel. If they tighten up on the supply a little bit by saying they're doing maintenance on their plants, or they can make the price go up. And that's exactly what they're doing. Whether this is true or not, that they really need this maintenance, or that they couldn't have a redundant system to cover that, or there's plenty of oil washing around the world, but we can't get enough gas made here in California. There's a big shortage of gas that we can use in our cars here in California. So let's get this straight. The refineries, there's certain refineries around the state, since they've mismanaged their refineries and scheduled certain maintenance and maybe had some breakdowns or even some accidents or whatever that caused their refinery not to work right and be able to produce enough gas, then they get rewarded with higher prices and bigger profits. So that's how it is. They create the problem with mismanagement, and they now get the higher prices for their gas. And it's not just one gas station that goes up in price when this happens. They all go up. All the gas prices of all the stations go up because there's this perceived shortage of gas. Yes, it'd be one thing if the refinery that blew up didn't have enough fuel, so they raised their prices. So maybe one gas station brand would raise their prices. Well, they wouldn't sell any, because if they were $4 and everybody else was $3.25 or whatever it would be, they wouldn't sell any gas. So all of the gas stations raised their prices. All of the gas and producers and stations raise their prices because there's this one or two refineries that's creating this problem. So they all benefit. Are they doing it on purpose? Who knows? It's certainly a great incentive to do that because they're getting $70 million a day extra for doing nothing. Could the state government of California do something about this and not allow them to get away with that? 70 million a day? Sure, they could. Are they going to do anything? I doubt it. I doubt they're going to do anything about it. Are they paid off by the oil companies? I don't know. It's certainly a possibility. Certainly seems like it. I don't hear any talk from the politicians about doing anything about it. They just let it happen time and time again. And this goes on, if not every year, for a couple of months. It's gone on every other year. It just continues to happen over and over again. And I've seen this kind of thing since the 70s. There's always an excuse. And this time it's the refineries are having problems. It's from what I've been able to find out by looking around the internet. When they're going to get these things back online, maybe the price will go back down a little bit. It just doesn't seem to happen that quickly. It always goes up faster than it goes down. So I'm going to wrap this up. Gas $2.45 in Nebraska, $4 plus in California, $70 million a day extra money being got by the refiners and the gas companies in California. There it is. There's a classic ripoff. And I just like to talk about anything that is going to lower our standard of living, and that is certainly lowering the standard of living of the people in California right now. Now, the gas price ripoff in California and some of the other states going on right now is a ripoff, a big ripoff. $70 million a day going to the oil companies and refineries or whoever it's going to. $70 million a day is a big ripoff. But that is it pales in comparison to my list of top 10 super ripoffs that I've done. And those top 10 super ripoffs, podcasts are out there. I just finished the last one, I think a week or so ago. So 1 through 10 are out there, and you can go out and look at those if you're interested in that kind of thing and what has lowered and degraded our standard of living over the past 50 years or so since the 1960s and 70s. And that top 10 super ripoff list of mine, I believe those are the central ripoffs that have lowered our standard of living and made it more difficult for especially the young people to buy houses, to get decent medical insurance. It's put a lot of people on food stamps and welfare that can't get a good paying steady job with benefits and that kind of thing like they had back in the 60s and 70s. Then that contributed to that great standard of living they had then. So if you're interested at all in why the standard of living is lower today than it was back in those 60s and 70s, go look at my top 10 super ripoff podcasts, because that is the answer, I believe, or very close to the answer as to why things in the economy and the standard of living are not as good as they were then. And if you're a young person, you weren't here in the 60s and 70s like I was. You only see what you see now. You came into the world and you see these overpriced, high-priced houses and high medical costs. That's not how it was in the past. This is new. This has happened over the last 50 years or so. So it'd be good if you're a young person, you want to understand what happened, why it's like it is today, why the economy and the standard of living are lower. I encourage you to go look at those top 10 super ripoff podcasts. Thank you for listening in today. And until next time, this is Lloyd Holiday signing off.